joining one after the other. You are joining this session. Happy Friday. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Roberta Alberton, Sales Manager for Italy and Spain. And here we are today for our monthly product masterclass with, I would say, with our product guru, our Chief Product Officer, Martin Wittmann. But before starting with the session, I would like to do some important reminders. So today is available Wordly, our EI system for translation. And I'm going now to share with you the link also in the chat. As you know, you just need to click on this link to have the translation in your own language. If you have not scanned the QR code before, while you were waiting, you can just click in this link. And this is for all the languages, but I have also good news. I have a great news for the Turkish members, because for Turkish people, please be aware that we have simultaneous translation for you. And you just need to click here in Zoom, in the Zoom application. There should be the interpretation button. Okay, you just need to click on Turkish. And if you click on Turkish, you can listen directly to our translator, our translator that will translate everything in Turkish language. So now I believe that we are ready to start the session. The topic of today will be MagHealy scientific basic training, plus using and understanding MagHealy. And now I will hand over to you, Martin. Welcome.
Thank you. So yeah, Roberta already said it. We have a very exciting topic, and that's the MagHealy scientific basics, and of course some using and understanding of the MagHealy. So with our new Obsidian version, we of course have lots of things that we now can also use in a bigger scale. So let me share my screen. So that's me. So let's go on to the next one. Wait a second. Here we go. So, MagHealy scientific basics. Here we have a small notice. And the scientific basics of electromagnetic fields are, of course, very important if you talk about MagHealy, because MagHealy is a magnetic field applicator. So what we are doing is we're creating a frequency modulated magnetic field. And of course, to know how magnetic fields actually work is one very, very helpful thing if you want to go a little deeper. So, what is the structure of a magnetic field? So, electromagnetic field. So it's basically a physical field that's produced by electrical charged objects. Like current in a power cable or electrolytes in a human. And that's very important. So everyone knows, I don't know, a lamp or something. If you switch it on, the light in your room, then some cable usually goes to this light, and this cable only can produce a magnetic field if current is going through, but is also always creating a magnetic field if current is going through. So if your light is on, there is a magnetic field in the cable that leads to the light. And the same is also if you have electrical charges in your body or electrolytes. So we also have negative and positive charges in our body. Also, if I basically move my arm, then electrical current is going through my muscle to actually make this possible. Same for my heart. My heart beats all the time. And every time it beats, an electrical current basically is going through the heart, which is basically inducing the pumping mechanism of my heart. And of course, this electrical current is also creating a magnetic field. So I had once in my study magnetism in medicine. Very, very nice lecture. And there we went to a laboratory and they had a shielded room where no magnetic fields can get inside and a big gradiometer. So gradiometer is a measurement device for magnetic fields and it was cooled with liquid nitrogen. And this gradiometer was like almost the size of a car, and they placed it in front of the heart. And this way, you could really see the ECG measured with a magnetic field device. So you basically measure the magnetic field of the heart and see that there's an ECG. So the same basically current that you could measure with a normal measurement you can also measure with the magnetic field. So those two things are, as you see also in the graphics on the right side, they are 90 degrees onto each other. So basically the electrical field goes downwards and the magnetic field goes to the left when you follow those arrows that you see here. So they always coexist, and that's very important to know. Here we have the properties of electromagnetic waves. So, and here you can also see on the left side, that's where McHealy is basically creating frequencies in. So 0 hertz, basically, or 0.1 hertz to 12.5 hertz, megahertz in this case. So that's a lot. So 10 to the power of 6. And this is basically almost also radio wave so AM radio, not FM radio, so not the long waves, but the short waves. And as you can see here, if the waves get basically even shorter, so they have more energy, a higher hertz, so megahertz and gigahertz and so on, then you get into microwaves, infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, and then gamma waves at the end. And as we all know, X-rays and gamma waves are not so healthy anymore. They are actually they have so much energy that they actually are used for medical X-rays and of course radiotherapy. But we with MagHealy are of course in a range that's very safe, and there, yeah, we have two electromagnetic fields that we are creating with 2 times the frequencies. So that's also special about MagHealy because we have 2 coils inside, and those 2 coils have 2 frequency generators, and those 2 frequency generators generate basically two independent magnetic fields. So, of course, there are different sources of electromagnetic fields. So you have natural sources like the magnetic field of the Earth. Everyone knows about it. That's why we basically can stand and not flying around on the Earth because there's a magnetic field that pulls us to the Earth downwards, basically. Then we have visible light, which is also a magnetic field. Electromagnetic field and lightning, of course, also. Then we have man-made sources like electrical systems, computers, then X-rays, Wi-Fi modems, remote controls, mobile phones, and lots of more. Yeah, everything that basically uses somehow electrical current has also electrical field, as we already learned. So what we also have is yeah the Yeah, let's use this to understand lower frequencies and higher frequencies. As you see here, the wave is quite long until it goes up and down. And the faster it goes up and down in a second, the higher the frequency. So basically it changes from a negative to a positive, and in the middle there's the zero basically base, and it goes up and down and very fast, and that's basically the frequency. So how you basically display a frequency. Now one quite important part, especially if you use magnetic fields on the body. So the influence of magnetic field on charged particles. So when the magnetic field is applied to the body, for example, and there are charged particles inside, then the magnetic field basically has an influence on those charged particles. I mean, we all know this also from MRT. So if you do an MRT, so you apply a very, very, very high magnetic field, dozens, not dozens, hundreds, thousands of times higher than the MagHealy. And this basically leads that the atoms or the molecules basically go into a certain direction, and then you switch off the magnetic field, and then they basically go back in their original direction that they originally were. And according to this change, you can make an imaging, and that's MRT. So there you also using the effect that the magnetic field has an influence on charged particles in the body. How do you measure electromagnetic fields? Of course, the frequency is measured in hertz, and the magnetic field strength has the unit amperes per meter, for example. And of course, the unit of the measurement is H, and there's also the magnetic flux density B, which is measured in Newton meters per ampere, also called Tesla. So Tesla, that's what we all know, because Tesla is pretty famous. And what we have with MagHealy is 300 microtesla. So not so let's say powerful as an MRT, but we of course use the frequency in combination with the magnetic field. And of course, superconducting quantum interface devices like squids, they are used to measure weak magnetic fields. So that's also a pretty interesting thing. So you can also measure, for example, the magnetic field of the heart using such squids. And they are, of course, much cheaper than a big radiometer, like I told you before. Then what would Einstein say to this? And his principal formula is E equals mc square. So energy equals mass and the light speed to the power of 2. So matter and energy cannot be created, neither destroyed. So this is basically shown in this equation, that you always have energy and it cannot, and matter, and they cannot be destroyed. They can just basically morph into each other or morph from one to the other. And matter and energy are different forms of the same thing. Consequently, matter can be converted into energy and energy into matter. So it's always a back and forth. And this means that every electromagnetic field has an effect on matter. So that's a very, very interesting fact, that if you have an electromagnetic field, you also have, of course, energy in this electromagnetic field, in this magnetic field. And if you apply such a magnetic field on matter, you impart energy into matter. And in this matter, something happens. And that's what we are using. So how is a pulsed magnetic field generated? That's of course what we do. We have no normal magnet, as you know, like on your fridge, those magnets that are permanent magnets. No, we are using a pulsed magnetic fields. So to do this, you usually use a coil, like you have in this picture in the middle. So this is basically a wire, which is has put around something, that you have small coils basically. And then you are applying electrical current pulses with a certain frequency. And this way you basically create a magnetic field with a certain frequency. And as I already told you, we have two coils inside, so we can use two magnetic fields at the same time. And this what we're using for the McMakin programs, because they originate in frequency-specific microcurrent, and there you use 2 microcurrent frequencies or 2 generators at the same time at one body, and they basically create also an interference. So basically a third frequency. And that's what we're also using, of course, in the MagHealy. Now, the effects of magnetic fields on our existence. That's a quite important thing, because what do we know actually what magnetic fields do? And our entire existence is constantly influenced, of course, by magnetic fields, like the interaction between Earth and space. If you look at the sun, then you also have a very strong magnetic field. Yeah, people always say, okay, there's some sun eruptions, and this basically hits us. So there's a lot of things going on. And of course, MagHealy uses different, similar magnetic fields to support everyone in different ways. So the effects of geomagnetic activity on the human body is also quite interesting, because they seem to correlate with our nervous system. So the human body responds to changes in solar geomagnetic activity and is synchronized with magnetic field changes associated with geomagnetic field lines. So field line resonances and Schumann resonances. So this is quite interesting, as we know from sleeping gurus that you need to be careful where you sleep, what magnetic fields are there, what fields are there, because not everywhere is a good sleeping environment. So those magnetic fields, if you're sensitive, can be very positive on your sleep, or very negative if you sleep in a certain space which is not clear of magnetic fields that are interfering with sleep. Then is consciousness based on electromagnetic fields? That's also quite fascinating, because this Anglo-Irish scientist, John McMakin, states that electromagnetic fields carried by the brain is the actual carrier of human consciousness. So there seems to be a little more to magnetic fields than we usually know. And he called them basically as conscious electromagnetic information. And this is, of course, another field theory. And another researcher, so Dr. Pocket, she suggests that electromagnetic field comprises a universal consciousness that experiences the sensations, perceptions, thoughts, and emotions of every conscious being in the universe. So since electromagnetic fields or magnetic fields are also eternal, so basically they penetrate through the body, they penetrate to walls, through almost everything except of a few materials. So they also go a very, very long range. Of course, they lose in intensity or in strength, but they go everywhere. So that's also something that she basically takes into account, that maybe all those things are actually working together. So what we are using, of course, in the MagHealy is the MagHealy atmosphere programs, so the atmosphere application. And they are, of course, used with a pulsating magnetic field that extends about 0.5 meter or 1.5 meter across the room. So what we are basically using with the atmosphere programs is the effect of a magnetic field on the entire room, on the space, because all the surroundings that we have are also or can be influenced by magnetic fields in a positive way. And it's quite important to know that the power of magnetic fields decreases with the third power, which means a magnetic field, if you have it near you, it's very powerful, but if you just go a few centimeters away, it loses a lot of strength. So that's also quite important. If you want to use the magnetic field effect of the MagHealy, you really need to keep it near the body. If you just want to use the frequency effect, you can go a little further away or simply reduce intensity, which is also quite important. If you use full intensity, you use 100% battery. And if you use 50% intensity, you use only 50% of the battery at the same time. So this is directly related. Here we also did a study. In this study, we used the holistic health program in the morning, and in the evening, we used the sleep program. And we had quite positive effects. I mean, we also did recently the sleep study with the McHealy Plus programs, or McMakin Plus programs. And they are quite interesting because there we first time used a placebo-controlled study, or did a placebo-controlled study. So we did magnetic field programs that had basically no frequency and no effect, and we used for the active group the real McMakin Plus sleep program, night harmony man and night harmony female. And there we had actually positive effects that exceed the placebo effect. So really a high significant positive effect. And here we also see the effect size. So for concerns, which is quite interesting, it's a very, very high, very large effect size. So people had issues. They said in the beginning of the study, okay, I have issue X, Y, Z. And after the study, we asked them, okay, how much better got your issue? And it got really, really much better. And that's what we also experienced in the sleep study. So they really slept a lot better. Then the effects of magnetic fields on water. And this is really, really, really interesting. Because as we all know, if you have water molecules, they are basically consist of 2H and 1O, which is hydrogen bonds that are basically between those molecules that are possible there. So you have hydrogen and you have oxygen, and those basically the oxygen is negative and the hydrogen is positive. So you have an H plus and an O minus. And when you see on the right side, you see those molecules. So the O minus basically has a very weak connection to the H plus. So with those weak connections, hydrogen bonds can form in really big clusters. So those molecules can basically encode, let's put it like that, a certain information using those hydrogen bonds. And that's really, really interesting. And now let's look at the next slide. And here you see those complex water clusters that are basically based on hydrogen bonds. So they can really be quite big and quite complex. And of course, give water always a special property. So you basically can encode information in water, and quite complex information, because those hydrogen bonds are basically internal in complexity, or possible complexity can be internal in such hydrogen bonds. So another quite interesting thing is the effects of magnetic fields on water. So we have measured effects, so the decrease of surface tension, for example, an increase in viscosity at room temperature, change in the rotational movement of water molecules, which I already explained is the magnetic resonance tomography, so MRT. So there you use those water, basically molecules, change the spin or how they basically are aligned, and then you switch it off and then they realign, and then you measure basically the delta, and then you have the different tissues that you have in the body, if it's bone, if it's I don't know, heart tissue or so. So all those tissues have a different reaction basically to the magnetic field. And there are also assumed effects, which is reducing intramolecular energy of the water, increase in activation energy in the water, and change in the hydrogen bonding. And this is the most interesting for us, and increase in the mean size of water clusters. So you basically put information in and have an effect on those hydrogen bonds. There's also a quite interesting experiment. So the French immunologist Jacques Benveniste, he experimented on basically information in water, and his experiments were also continued by Luc Montagnier and extended theoretically by Francis, and they revealed a phenomenon that electromagnetic information generated by low-frequency electromagnetic waves in nanostructures of water. So what they did, they put DNA strands inside, so really normal DNA. Then they removed the DNA, but the information obviously was still in the water, and then they simply used a DNA imprint amplifier, so via PCR, and the DNA formed again, so the original DNA. So this, of course, shows that water is a very, very powerful storage of information. And of course, there we have our water programs in the MagHealy, which of course use quantum analyzed frequencies. So we're really using the information field again to analyze the frequencies for you when you apply the program on water. And as we understand it, water is the material form of the information field. And the information that is basically contained in the water is all the information on which our life is based in the first place. So as we know, the life started basically on this planet, or life started on this planet in the water. And then basically, I think every living being also needs water. And we, of course, did the McKeely water study. And there we also asked the concerns. And there, as you can see here on the right side, on the bottom, we have also very large effect in the cohency. So what we used is in the morning, the fitness water program, then in the afternoon, the energy, and in the evening, the cell harmony. So 3 programs every day. So you had a glass of water, put on the MagHealy, and informed the water, and then you had a quite positive effect. Also on well-being, also a very large effect. Then effects of the magnetic field on the body, which is quite interesting because if you have electromagnetic field intensity, the intensity of electromagnetic fields can have either positive or harmful effects on humans. So since we're using a very small magnetic field, we of course use all the positive effects. And in the study that we see here, the effects of magnetic fields are on the cellular level. And it has shown that depending on the intensity of the magnetic field, which is used for applying it to the cells, a corresponding amount of reactive oxygen species is formed. So leading to either positive at low intensity or a pathological effect at too high intensity. And so our low intensity magnetic fields seem to be very positive. Then you have electromagnetic fields on the human body. So countless weak electrical currents and thus electromagnetic fields are permanently generated in the human body, as I already said. So our heart is one of the biggest magnetic field generators in our body, let's put it like that. And our digestion, brain activity, heart function, and central nervous system are function only through the redistribution of charged particles. So there are charged particles all over the place, basically, and most of our body functions need those electrical fields or charged particles. And there we also created the classic application. And those classic applications we enhanced, of course, with quantum analyzed frequencies. So what we did is basically we used the common magnetic field frequencies that are out there that have lots of studies, and we put them in the MagHealy and added the right quantum analyzed frequencies also. And here we also have the patent of basically the infrared quantum noise source that we use in the MagHealy. So there we also have a patented technology inside. And here we also did a study with the study programs Positive Mood and Regeneration. And yeah, quite interesting results. Again, the concerns were very large in the positive effect. So the decrease in concerns was pretty massive. And of course, we also had this burnout decrease, so the CBI and well-being increase, and of course a mood increase. So pretty impressive results. And here are some references. This was the first part of the presentation, and now we get to the second part of the presentation, or the second part of the webinar. And this is basically understanding and using MagHealy, because now we know the basics. So what are the magnetic fields? What are they doing? What range are we working in? What field strength do we use? What electrical fields and electromagnetic fields are in our body already existing and working basically every day that we actually can exist. And now, how can we in a positive way use all those things? So I want to start with the McHealy McMakin application. So as I already said, the method is originated in frequency-specific microcurrent, FSM, as in short. And here you use, as I already said, two frequencies of two microcurrent generators, basically at the same time. And we have in the original McMakin programs, we have 24 of her most important protocols. And for the MagHealy Obsidian, we added 12 additional protocols. So it took us quite a while to add those because there were so many things that we said, okay, can a normal user use this properly? Is it really the best program that's out there? Because we have only 12 slots. So what can we basically put in? So it took quite a while, but we managed at the end. It was a back and forth. And what we also have is, of course, the dual frequencies, and that's special only for the McMakin application. So we're using two frequencies at the same time. The atmosphere programs, the water programs, they only use one frequency. Yeah, and of course the first frequency, so there's always those frequency pairs and those McMakin programs. The first frequency always defines the target area, so where is the area where I want to change something. And the second is the topic. So what do I want to change? Where and what? And those two frequencies basically work together. And of course, you can select those programs according to the names. And you have, of course, also local placements and non-local programs. And here's one protocol for vitalization, and here you use basically detox on the first day, in the morning and noon, either or whenever it fits, and in the afternoon and the evening, brain harmony. So brain harmony, I really can recommend. I used it many times on my father or sister. So when they are a little out of balance, I always say, okay, let's do just a small brain harmony program, and then they really calm down. And yeah, after that, they usually smile and are in a good mood. That's quite positive. In the second day, we have body comfort and the vagus harmony in the evening. And then in the morning, in the third day, detox and sleep. And that's also important. So usually you use detox in the morning because all your excretionary organs like the kidneys or the liver, they are working in the morning. To use a detox program in the morning is always good. Then in the fourth day, digestion harmony. And that's also good that you only use one because digestion harmony, I mean, your digestion is pretty complex, so you shouldn't overwhelm your system with too many programs. And body comfort in the fifth day. And in the sixth, you do sleep in the morning. And on the seventh, emotions and vagus harmony. And yeah, and that's an intensive, let's say, treatment or not treatment application. And there you have also the second week. There you have detox and digestion now combined. And then brain harmony in the evening, emotions, nerve harmony, sleep, detox and vagus, again sleep and nerve harmony and brain harmony. So you should also do that maximum for 1 month. And then basically reduce the amount of programs because it's like an intensive application. Of course, you can also always combine it. So McMakin body comfort, you can combine with the energy water program, digestion harmony with energetic cleansing or nutrition transport, brain harmony with mental clarity, detox with cell harmony. So this, of course, can be combined pretty well because one is directly on the body and one is basically giving the water a new structure that you actually can ingest. Then the McHealy Classic application. So you, as I already said, we have those effects that we have from all those studies. Then you have the charged particles that are resonating with magnetic fields. So as we already learned, we have lots of charged particles in the body, and those actually can interact, or the magnetic field of the McHealy can interact with those charged particles. And we have, of course, effects also on water molecules in the body. Not only the water programs can basically inform water, but also the McHealy programs can rearrange, or not rearrange, change the water that we have in our body and also form those hydrogen bonds or those clusters of hydrogen bonds or of water molecules. And of course, we're also using the Schumann frequency and local programs or systemic programs. They're usually placed on the belly. Here's a small guide for 2 weeks. So it just repeats. So you have vitality, energy, circulation, and regeneration. And it basically is every day almost the same, except we change cell harmony in between. So this is a pretty interesting one. And of course, the atmosphere programs. So we permeate space, which means the magnetic field is eternal, so it spreads through the whole room and can, of course, also change something in the room. Yeah, and then we have, of course, resonance with people and the effect on the room. So through the vector potential field, we can resonate basically, or the magnetic field resonates with space and matter. And the magnetic field acts directly on people through space, and McHealy also affects the room itself and its energetic field. So it also there's often a question, so what is when more people are in the room, what is the MagHealy analyzing then? And usually if you are basically part of this field, then the MagHealy analyzes the right frequencies for the whole group. So MagHealy resonates with the person in the room, and the bioenergetic field permeates the organism. So it consists of the most subtle structures of coherent water. And that's also something that Marcus often mentions, and that's the term coherent water. So that's what we want at the end of the day. We want that our water, the whole body water, is coherent. And those coherent water structures also usually are corresponding to the meridian system. So all those things are actually connected. Resonance with people and effect on the room. Quite interesting, again, a harmonic system that resonates with the frequencies of its environment. So that's what you could call MagHealy. It's an harmonic system that resonates with the frequencies of its environment. Also comparable to the strings of a harp. So you basically create resonance, so the right sounds basically to have a positive effect. And that's also what I mentioned before. It's not ultimately about the intensity of the program, because if you use the frequency effect, it's only about the frequencies, not about the magnetic field and the information that's basically contained in those frequencies. So every frequency has a certain information, and this information has a certain effect. And this effect we are basically using. And you could imagine it as that those quantum analyzed frequencies are basically tuning your bioenergetic system. So the harmonization is basically through rearranging of all the frequencies in your body. And of course, you can increase your well-being using that. Then you have the energetic field of a room, and MagHealy can also act on the energetic field of the room, which is quite interesting because it corresponds then to the quality of the room, which we already had, of course. And the room itself can be seen as a vibrating system. So which has both coherent and not coherent frequencies. And we are, of course, always want to have a coherent frequency or coherent room energy. This is also a short example. So because if you have basically a room where you see, okay, it's not really flowing, I don't really like the room energy, I don't feel comfy in this room, then that's a place where you could use the coherence program. Or you simply use the coherence program simply in the middle of your building or your flat or whatever you have, and then you use the positive frequencies. And you can also apply, of course, some feng shui, or as Marcus had it, his own, let's say, Vedic way of arranging things in a room or in a house. And northeast and northeast are especially suitable for water. So the east and the north of the room should be light and open. So those are just a few small examples how you can not only optimize your room energy with the MagHealy, but also can look into where should I place things in the room, in my house, and so on. Yeah, you have, of course, atmosphere programs for relationship and groups, so creativity, family harmony, relationship prosperity, all those things, also for plants and animal harmony. or for several people when you eat together, have team meetings, are working out, or playing games. So this is really usable, quite massive. Here's a small guide again. So what you could use. Here is energy, coherence, and relaxation, and mixed with holistic health and sensitivity on Saturdays and Sundays also makes a lot of sense, because we overwhelm usually ourselves with lots of electromagnetic fields, and to detox at some point from those makes a lot of sense. And last but not least, of course, McHealy water. So water is the cradle of life, and up to 99.5% of the molecule weight of our body are water molecules. So that's also quite fascinating. And water has, of course, a lot of anomalies. So it's a lot more than meets the eye. And of course, the theory of coherent water domains is something that Marcus also looked into quite a bit. And here downstairs you have Emilio de Giudici, then Chuck Benveniste and Luc Montagnier. And so those are the really trailblazers in all those water studies and water experiments. As I already said, so you can really store complex frequency patterns in water, and water is sensitive to external electromagnetic vibrations, of course. And this information can be transmitted then in the biological organism. So that's also quite important, because water is not, let's say, isolated and there's an effect in water. No, you can also transport the effect into the body. So we can, use it to condition water. And of course, we can also use it for a whole bottle, but you should use it then only in one day, because there are, of course, lots of influences from light, also electromagnetic fields and so on, that change those water molecules or those hydrogen bonds again. So you shouldn't have an informed water standing around too long. So simply use it in the day. It also makes sense to drink 1 to 2 liters in a day. So just use it. Here you have a quite interesting guide again. So you have kidney, which is quite important, cell harmony, and vagus harmony, which is, vagus harmony in our stressful times, that's always good. So if you're stressed, use a vagus program. If it's a water program, if it's a McMakin program, or you combine them. If it's too much stress, you're feeling overwhelmed, just try it. And I wish you the best of luck on your way to holistic health. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you for all these information that are very useful to coach and train the teams, and also to transmit some great information to our customers. Thank you very much. I don't know if we may have, Martin, 5 minutes for possible questions.
Yes.
Okay, so if you would like to drop a message in the chat if you have any question, and Martin will be glad to reply to you, of course. So for the moment, there are not questions. Let's wait a couple of minutes. Okay, thank you, Deb. If a user doesn't like placing MagHealy on the body, can they place the device next to the body?
Yes, of course. The magnetic field, as I said, is more or less eternal. It just decreases, of course, in strength. But if you mainly using the frequency effect, what we are mainly using in most of the cases or most of the programs, then of course you just place it near the body. That's more than okay.
Nice, thank you. Any other possible questions, clarification about the topic we have just shared? Let's see, let's wait for a minute. Okay, vibrated the water in a jug and when transferred to a cup. Is the formed water disrupted?
Not really, because I mean, what you're using is just a little, let's say, yeah, you're basically not changing the energetic structure of the water if you pour it somewhere. So that's a different level that you're working. That's a very physical level. So you just basically the water goes from A to B, but the information, so the hydrogen clusters, they are weak, but not that weak. So I mean, if you not shake the water and then pour it somewhere, then you should have the main information still inside.
Okay, this is interesting as well. I am not sure, choose, you said for use the paint to clean. I don't know if you have understood,
No, I don't
Martin,
know what
what
it means actually.
it means. So if you can please rephrase your question.
Okay, protocol. Mhm. I mean, I just saw this neck question. So when it's not comfortable to put it on neck, which I also experienced, I think the only way to do it is actually to use some cushions and make yourself somehow comfy on that, and put the MagHealy somehow on the side that you lie comfortable. But that's a challenge, that's true, but somehow it usually works. The kneecap protocol with McHealy. I mean, you simply need to try this protocol, I think, and that should have a positive outcome.
Yeah, we have also questions on the other question and answer section of Zoom. And one is, what do you think, Martin, about using water programs on the abdomen?
I mean, they are not designed for that. I mean, you can try it. There's nothing negative about trying, because you are made of a lot of water, basically. So you can also use the water programs on yourself, but it's not designed for that because it's very short. So it's just for informing water, not for basically rearranging your whole water molecules in your body. That usually takes longer. Let's put it like that. Um, I also saw another. The magnetic field is strong on the base of the device or on the top. So the most, can you see that? It's a little bright, maybe like this. So here on the bottom, exactly where my finger points, there is the strongest magnetic field.
Okay, and then there is another question here. How much Fercans must we use?
How much what?
Let me type here in the chat the question so you can see. I am not sure what it is as well. I'm sorry. Fercans.
Ferkens must we use. Mhm.
I am not sure.
Let's see.
And then there is another question that I need to translate.
Frequency.
Yeah, maybe you can help us with the question in Turkish, please. Yep. Thank you.
So for if you use atmosphere programs, that doesn't make sense to change because I just read if the magnetic field on the base of the device is stronger, should we flip it on the table? That doesn't make too much sense because the magnetic field, if can you see that? A second, like this. The magnetic field goes like this, basically. So that the strongest magnetic field is on the bottom is only important if you want to use a lot of magnetic field strength on a certain, I don't know, range of your body, like to increase basically, I don't know, perfusion or something, so that you have a direct effect of the magnetic field on your water in the body, basically. But for the frequency effect, that doesn't make a difference. So then you can leave it like normal on the table.
Okay, so we have replied to both, right? And then I kindly ask to our translator if you can also translate the question I have or the comment I have included in the chat, but I'm going to tap it again. I'm sorry, it's in Turkish and I would like to be sure.
There's also saw a question, how much program use in a day. So usually I always recommend one program in a day. If you have a certain theme, basically, if you have more things, then maximum 3 programs a day, shouldn't be more, but it always depends on your state. So if you're young and fit, so you can use more programs. If you're older and not so fit, you should use less programs because your body needs to basically digest the information. And if you give too much information, it's just noise for the body. It's just overwhelming. So it's better to use less programs and consciously than use lots of programs and more is better. That's not the case. It's really about, and that's also maybe one very important factor that I always also have in the Healy webinars. When you have atmosphere programs and also classic programs, they are analyzing in the information field which frequency is the best one. So your consciousness, your basically focus when you use the program, your intention when using the program also defines the frequencies. So better have a very conscious use of the device and get the right frequencies for whatever you want than using lots of programs a day and have no real conscious let's say focus on something. So that's much more powerful. McHealy fall into place, does it affect its operating mode?
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, please.
Does it affect it? I don't really get the question.
Can you hear the interpreter, Martin?
Come again?
Yeah, maybe you just need to.
I think your connection is not so good.
Okay, I believe you didn't hear, correct, Martin?
Yes.
Just need to stay in the English channel. Are you in the English channel?
Yes.
Okay, can you hear me, Martin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So the question was if in McHealy the magnetic field and and the frequency therapy, they are working together.
Yeah, basically what you use is you use a magnetic field that's frequency modulated. So you have the power of the magnetic field on the one hand and the power of frequencies on the other hand. So basically both are combined. And if you use McMakin programs, you have even 2 frequencies at the same time. So two magnetic fields with two frequencies that are modulated at the same time. So that's basically the beauty of MagHealy, that you combine all those things in one device.
Okay, thank you. And now I believe we have time to reply to this last one, and then we need, I believe that Martin, you need to go because you have
Yes.
also another training. If
true.
MagHealy fall into place, does it affect its operating mechanism?
I don't know what that means actually. Fall into place.
Fall into place.
We pull down MagHealy. I don't know.
If we pull down MagHealy.
Does it cause harm if it falls down? So
Okay, okay.
if the device falls down, that might actually damage internal parts. So that's the downside of MagHealy, because it's so round. So sometimes it slips off the body, but that's actually not so good for the hardware. At the end of the day, everything breaks if you throw it down. I mean, the housing is quite stable, but the things in the MagHealy might be damaged. So simply, I don't know, contact support if you have a problem, and then maybe you need to get a replacement for the MagHealy.
Yeah. Last, very, very super last question, but it's in Turkish. I don't know if you can. Can you hear, Martin? No, I will repeat again. So,
Yes, please.
last question is if with the MagHealy we can use all the applications in one day. I mean, in one day I'm going to use the atmosphere, the water, and etc. etc. Is that possible or maybe not?
Yeah, that makes sense, but you should always see that those things, of course, work synergetically. So you shouldn't use one program which is, I don't know, energy, and in the other program that is sleep. So don't use those basically together. But if you use, like we had in one protocol, you can use the Vagus program for McMakin, the Vagus program from water, and so on. So you can combine those, but also don't overdo it. So you should only combine maybe 3 things and not more.
Okay, makes sense with a coherence about the goal you would like to achieve, right?
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. So thank you to everyone. Thank you also for all the questions and comment. We are glad that you are finding these trainings very useful. And I wish everyone a very great weekend. And thank you very much to you, Martin. Ciao,
You're welcome.
everyone. Bye.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
bye. Bye.